to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. Today, I'm here to talk about the new Catagory 7 album. But before I get into that, if you do want to support the show, whatever social media outlet you are viewing this on, please give me a like or a follow there. Obviously, if you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button if you want to support the show. Like the video, share this video, leave a comment, let me know what you think of this new Catagory 7 album. And if you want to be notified anytime I do post a video, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post one. So with that being said, let's talk about this album, Catagory 7. And it's sort of a super group because everybody that is basically in this band is a very well-accomplished heavy metal musician, and they have been and are in some killer bands. Let's first start off with the singer, John Bush. I love John Bush. John Bush of Armored Saint being one of my favorite bands. And of course, he did sing on my favorite Anthrax album of all time, Sound of White Noise, which was also my favorite album from high school. You have Phil Demmel. Now, obviously, many of you know Phil Demmel is playing in Kerry King's solo band, and also from Violence, and he's played in a lot of really great bands over the years. Mike Orlando, many of you may remember him from the band Adrenaline Mob. Again, another phenomenal band that I love, and Russell Allen, of course, was singing in that band as well. Jack Gibson, the bass player in my favorite thrash metal band of all time, Exodus. And then, of course, you have Jason Bittner, who is a phenomenal drummer. Is playing in Shadows Fall, played in Overkill, played on the last Toxic album, I believe, or at least played in Toxic. So the guy, he is probably one of the better drummers out there in the thrash metal scene. So 5 phenomenal musicians. And with 5 phenomenal musicians, of course, the expectations for this album basically go sky high. Okay? And when you get high expectations, sometimes people in reviews and people in comments on social media may be a lot more harsh on an album than they would have been if, maybe you had one well-known musician, or if nobody knew who these guys were, prior to recording this album. Now, for me personally, I stay pretty open-minded. I don't really get expectations of something, even though, I'll be honest, I was expecting something really awesome. So, with that being said, what do I think of this album? Definitely, I think this album is really, really awesome. Now, I did put up a post, and I put up a post asking what people thought of this album, and nobody said it was bad. Usually, you'll get a wide variety of comments and reactions from people, from people loving it to people thinking it's okay, and to people that think it outright sucks. And not one person that I saw said it sucked. Most people loved it. Most people liked it. And some people were kind of I think it's okay. It has some decent songs on it, but, I thought it would be better, with the fact that I had high expectations for it. So really nobody says it sucks. I think the album is phenomenal, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you why I like it. When you listen to this record, each one of these guys, they are all from a different kind of heavy metal band. You do have guys from thrash metal bands, but I would say Adrenaline Mob and Armored Saint, aren't thrash at all. Much different. Now, granted, John Bush did sing in Anthrax, but you have a variety of different bands these guys have played in. And what's interesting is when you listen to this album, and one of the reasons I like it a lot is the fact that you can hear elements from each of the bands that these guys play in. Let me give you some examples. The Land I Used to Love, right? That kind of reminds me of an Adrenaline Mob song. I don't know why, but it's something about the chorus. When I listen to that song, it sounds like something that could be an Adrenaline Mob. You go to the song Apple of Discord, right? When I listen to the chorus, it sounds like something that Armored Saint basically could have recorded. And I know John Bush wrote a lot of the lyrics on this album, and probably some of the vocal lines, I'm going to guess, as well. But realistically, when you listen to it, you hear some thrash metal elements, and you hear elements that aren't thrash from, that kind of remind me of Adrenaline Mob and Armored Saint. So overall, I think these guys really kind of, hit the nail on the head. Now, what do I give it as a rating? And I had to listen to this album. Now I'm excluding comments. Like, there's people that always make comments on the production, and there are people that might say, I don't like the way the drums sound, or, I don't like the way the guitar sounds. I'm excluding that crap. I'm just talking about the record as a whole, and I'm talking about the songs, and I really don't have a problem with the production. Some people do, but I think the album is phenomenal. Where do I rank it? Going to be honest with you right now, I give it a 9 out of 10. I think the album is great, especially being a debut album, and especially with the fact that these guys have never really all worked together all at once, ever, and came in and wrote and recorded this. Most of the time, when you get guys that normally don't work together, and then they come in and have to record a record or create a band, a lot of times that debut album, it might be somewhat decent, but let's face it, most bands don't really hit the nail on the head and really just knock it out of the park on the first record. I think these guys really did that. I really like this album a lot. Now, at the same time, I do want to say this, and I'll end off the review here. I would love this. Hopefully this band continues. I don't know how well the album is sold or anything like that. I hope the band continues. And the reason I say that is I really like this record a lot. I can only imagine having one album under their belt that the guys that formed Catagory 7, all 5 of these guys, the second album I think would probably be better. And I say that because it's like anything else. Once you work together, you think about what you could have done better. You think of what you could have changed. Usually, most bands, the next record is going to be much better. It's just the way that it works. I mean, how many bands out there, folks, do you listen to where you're like, yeah, the debut album is the best album? Very rarely, right? Usually that second or third album, those are the albums that are usually the best as far as, that band is concerned. Now, some bands only have one album, it doesn't do well, and they just kind of disappear. It happens. Hopefully it does not happen to Catagory 7. So with that said, that's what I give it, 9 out of 10. I think the album is awesome. It has some of my favorite, musicians from some of my favorite bands. And, I love John Bush, one of my favorite singers of all time. And that's pretty much all I have for you there. So with that said, let me know what you think of this album. Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Stay metal.